Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to tell you how to configure SSH server in Linux. And this would be for all flavors, RHEL10, RHEL9, Rocky Linux 9, Rocky Linux 10, and also Alma Linux and CentOS Linux. Fine. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you 4 things about SSH server configuration. One is SSH banner or welcome banner or a welcome message. Second would be how to allow deny root login, how we can allow root user or deny root user for SSH login. Third would be how to allow or deny users in SSH server. Fine. So that would be again related to the users. I mean, root is also user access control basically, and this is also user access control. So in one part, we'll see how we can only allow or deny root login in SSH, and other thing would be how we allow or deny any specific users or multiple users in SSH login. Last thing would be how we can change our default port of SSH. Default port of SSH is port 22. So if you want to run your SSH on non-default port or customized port, which is other than 22, so how we can do that? So we'll see that in this particular video. Fine. So this video would be very interesting. So let's get started without any delay. Jai Shri Ram. Thank you. So guys, let's start with the practical. So as I told you in today's session, I'm going to tell you SSH server configuration in Linux. And in this particular configuration, I'm going to tell you 4 things. One would be SSH welcome banner or a banner message. So this is like a welcome message for the users who are actually trying to SSH your system. Fine. Second would be how to enable and disable root login in SSH. This is a part of user access control. Fine. And third would be how to allow or deny any specific user other than root in SSH. So if you want to allow any specific user to only take SSH of your system, only one particular user or maybe multiple users, so you can do that. Or you want to deny any particular user, you can do that. So the last thing we'll see is how we can change the default port. So default port, as I told you, is port number 22. So if you want to run your SSH on non-default port, which could be anything as per the need of the organization or maybe need of particular use cases. So you want to allow or you want to run SSH on non-default port like 2222. So we can do that. So this would be again in sometimes, in interview, anybody can ask you how to run SSH on non-default or custom port. So we'll see that in our 4th part. Fine. So let's start with the welcome message first. So in welcome message, what we need to do, we need to start with welcome message file. So first we need to create a welcome message file. So first, what we need to do, we need to create a welcome message file. Location can be any location, but it is recommended that you need to keep recommended location of banner file is etc. etc SSH. Inside SSH, you can keep with any name, but it is recommended to keep something like banner.txt, welcome banner, txt, or any kind of extension is not mandatory. Right? That is just for your understanding purpose. So let's create this etc banner.txt file. So let's create a oh, it didn't take me. So now it is vim etc ssh banner.txt. Okay, so this is my file which is created in my system. So welcome for Gaurav's class of Linux. Fine. So this is my message file. You can create file with any name. Let's save this. Now what we need to do, we need to go to the configuration file of SSH server, which is in etc sshd_config. So this is basically my configuration file of SSH. Fine. So in the same configuration file, we need to of SSH server is this. So this is my configuration file. Always remember, we have multiple files here with SSH_config and SSHD_config. So server file always ends with D, SSHD_config. So this is my server configuration file. So inside this file, you'll see somewhere a banner. Just for understanding purpose, let's see the line number. It is somewhere around line number 119. You'll see banner by default as none. So what we do, we just uncomment this, and in place of this none, I'll put my file, which is etc ssh and then banner.txt. So the full path of my banner file. So this is the entry which we need to do in this particular file. So yeah, this would be somewhere around line number 119 approx. It would be more than 119 or less than 119. So you'll see a banner. By default, it would be none. So uncomment it, like remove hash from the beginning of the line and put your message. Fine. Whenever you do any change in this particular file, SSHD_config, save it and always restart your SSHD daemon or service. Fine. So after this, if you check, let me check what is my IP address of this particular server. This is 192.168.17.137. So let me check this with SSH. I'm trying to log in with student user. So by default, root is not allowed as a part of practical also. I have not allowed it. Fine. So 137. Let me check again. Yeah, it's 137. So when you press enter, it actually gives you a welcome message. So even without giving any password or before password, it actually shows you the welcome message. So this is very useful in companies wherein you need to access your production servers. And we need to make sure that client will get a message so that client will access the correct or the right server. So now client will get an idea, okay, I'm accessing the right server. I'm not actually going into the wrong server. So if you are confirmed with this message, if you are okay with this message, you can give your password and you can log in with your server. Fine. So this is how Banner works in SSH. Fine. So let's come out from this. Okay. Now the next thing which we need to do is how to enable or disable root login. So by default, guys, please remember, by default in RHEL 9 and RHEL 10, root login is only allowed for key-based authentication. Means you can say that if your key-based authentication is enabled, then only root is allowed. Otherwise, if root login is, if your key-based authentication is disabled, so root login will not work. Root will be denied. So if your password is only option for authentication, then root will not work. So this is the feature with RHEL 9 and 10. So always remember, if you enable key for root, it works by default. But if you have no key, fine. So root will not work by default. So if you see, and the configuration file again, let's go to the configuration file again. And somewhere around line number, I guess 60, Not exactly the 60. It is somewhere around line number 40. You'll see permit root login, prohibit password. Prohibit password. This option means only key-based authentication is enabled for root. So this is one good question which may be asked in interview. So this option means root is allowed by default only for key-based authentication. So if your key-based authentication is working, then only root can log in on SSH console. Fine. So if this is our security feature, so key is actually considered as more secure as compared to password. So that is one security feature which is enabled in RHEL 9 and 10. So if you don't have key-based authentication, by default, root is denied. All other users are allowed, right? So our practical for today is how to allow root for password based authentication and also key based authentication. So guys, this is commented by default. That means this is also the default behavior or feature. Don't think that if it is commented, so this is disabled. This is commented means the default feature automatically, take place, and that is prohibit password. I mean, this option is the default feature. So if you want to make it some other option, so if you want to disable root for all types of login, whether it's key-based authentication or whether it's password-based authentication, you just need to mention permit root login no. So permit root login no means your root login would be disabled for all, whether it's a key-based authentication or whether it's a password-based authentication. Fine. So permit root login no. This means root login is disabled completely for password based authentication and key based authentication. So for both, this is disabled now. Fine. Perfect. So if you want to allow, you need to make it yes. So then you go with yes. This means now root is allow for both password and key based. So here it means yes means you have enabled it for both. Root login is enabled for both password and key based authentication. Fine. So here, if you make it permit root login yes, so this will allow both, not only key. So if you want only key, then you need to make it prohibit hyphen password. Perfect. So now again, after this change, you need to save the file. And again, you need to restart your SSHD daemon. Perfect. So now again, let's go to the client side and check. Now, not with the student. Let's try with root. Perfect. This message also comes for root. And let's give the password. Yeah, perfect. So now it's working for root. So now my root is allowed. Let me show you how it works with no. So if I make it no, this is no now. So this would be denied for both key-based authentication and perfect. So now if you go with this, I'm giving the same password, but it shows you permission deny message. So don't think that your password is incorrect. Password is correct, but you don't have permission to allow, for the SSH. You're not allowed for SSH login. So that is okay now. Perfect. So now the next thing which we need to do is how to allow or deny any specific user. To allow or deny any specific user, see, by default, everyone is allowed if your SSH daemon is running. So everyone is allowed. Fine. So if you want to allow any specific user, you can put entry anywhere in the file. But I recommend somewhere near to the permit root login so that you can easily, keep your user-based authentication or access control uh, in the same set. So permit root login is no. That means your root is deny. Let's make it yes. So let me show you one thing before my user access control. So let's check if root is now allowed. So see here, root is now allowed. It is working fine. So now let's go with the user-based access control or how to allow or deny a particular user. So I have a user student and I do have a user. Let me check Gaurav also. Yes, I do have Gaurav and let me reset a password of Gaurav. Perfect. Fine. So now I want to allow these two users SSH_config. And here you can just put this entry even after this. So allow users. Please remember A and U in caps, uppercase. Fine. And after this, you need to give space and then you can give, the name of the user, let's say student. Fine. So student, if you want to allow a student, so you can do this. And you need to restart the service. Now, only this user is allowed. After doing this, if you check root, root will also denied. I'm giving the same password, but this user will be denied. So you need to allow root or the multiple users. So if you allow multiple users, always remember that you need to allow root also because root may be required for administration purpose. And when users, when actually students or candidate allow normal users, they actually deny root login. Although they have mentioned permit root login, but still it will not work. So let's. One more thing which I want to tell you guys, you can see the man pages for this. It's chapter number 5. And you can go with man space 5 space SSHD_config. This is chapter number 5 of man page because this is the configuration file. And here you'll see very good options. So if you have any confusion regarding the options, you can see here. We have also group. If you want to allow a particular group, you can do this. This is my allow users, and it gives you a very good option. And this is the main thing which you need to remember, followed by the list of username pattern and separated by spaces. Sometimes we get confused whether we have a space or comma. So by reading this man page, you can easily, find out the options, correct option, or the maybe, the spelling. Sometimes we get confused with whether it's a uppercase or lowercase. So you can do like this. So what we need to do, we need to allow student space root. If you want to allow Gaurav also, let's allow these two only. Then we'll see if Gaurav works. Systemctl restart SSHD. So now if you see my root should work and it's working fine now. Fine. So always remember if somebody says allow student user or any particular user, always allow root also. Otherwise, root will be denied. So everyone can log in, but not root. So this is not a good thing. So allow root also so that you as a system administrator can also log in. Fine. So student and password and working fine. Perfect. But let's see if Gaurav works for me. So no, it is not working. So what we need to do, we need not to do anything. If you want to allow, you just need to mention allow users. And here, what you need to do, you need to just give name of the user. Perfect. So here you can give multiple users name. like space in between, right? And here you can mention Gaurav password and it is working fine. So this is how you can allow. So let me take this for quick notes. So both entry needs to be there if you want root login. So this needs to be there. And if you have allow user, so make sure you mention root here. It can be in the beginning or it can be in the end. That doesn't matter, but that needs to be there if you want to allow root. Fine. So let me take this for my notes. Perfect. Fine. So allow user is actually the entry for allow the users. If you want to deny user, so entry would be deny users. And same, if you want to deny any particular user, so only that user will be denied. Other users will be allowed. So let's say, suppose if you want to deny a student, you can deny a student. Fine. So like, for example, I want to go with deny users and I want to deny student user, or let's say Gaurav user. Fine. Again, after change, you need to restart the service. Perfect. So now what we need to do, we need to again check. So Gaurav is denied. So Gaurav gets permission denied because this user is denied. And if you check student, student is working fine for us. Yes, perfect. And also root, because permit root login is yes. Perfect. Fine. So this is how you can deny any particular user. So if you see any user is, creating some, trouble to your servers or something, so you can deny that particular user with deny user option. Right. So this is how you can deny. So only this particular user will be denied. Only this user will be denied and all other users will be allowed for SSH. Fine. Now, the last thing which we need to do is how we can go with how to change the default port. So default port, which is of SSH is port number 22. Fine. So this is the default port which we need to, use. So whenever you go with SSH command, so by default, the request comes to port number 22. So if you want to make SSH available on non-default port, so we need to go with port option here, which is again, let me show you the line number. On line number somewhere around 20 or 21, you will see port number 22. Uncomment this line and let's say give double two. Fine. Make sure that this port is not in use anywhere. Fine. So let me take this option here for my notes. So by default, you will see an entry. Like by default, we have an entry. This one, double two. We need to change it to whatever port. Change it to the required port. Double two and not practical. Okay, so we change it. So we need to make sure that, this port is not in use anywhere. So how we can do that? We can check with netstat command. So before, let's save it. Netstat -tunlp and grep double two. So it should not show you any result. If you're not getting any result, that means your any application is not running on that particular port. If you see double two, it shows SSH Fine. So SSH right now is running on this particular port. Fine. But 2222 is free, so that we can use. So we have changed it. After this, what we need to do, we need to check if SC Linux is allowed. So if you see SC Linux is in enforcing mode, so either we can disable SC Linux or you need to allow this port in SC Linux also. So if you see SC Linux port -L, and if you see grep SSH, so for SSH, only port 22 is allowed by SC Linux. So what you need to do, you need to check first if 2222 is anywhere in SC Linux or any other port. No. So what you can do now, you can go with SC manage port -A-T, and you need to use this context, port context name, fine. SC manage port -A-T SSH underscore port underscore T, fine. -P is protocol TCP, and then you can mention your port like this. So this will make it permanently, allowed for your SSH. So now you can see 2222 is allowed. So 2222 is allowed. So after this, you can restart your SSHD daemon. We have already made changes in the file. And if you see here, netstat-tunlp for SSH, we'll see here now it is running with 2222 and not 22. Fine. So let me take this also. So what we need to do, we need to add this in your SC Linux. So this is must if you have SC Linux in your system. Fine. Perfect. Fine. And after this, you can check with netstat-tunlp grep SSH to see if that port is active after restarting the daemon. So after this, you need to restart your daemon. After this, you need to restart your daemon, then only it will work. Fine. And also make sure that you allow, if you have firewall, -cmd -list -all. SSH is allowed, but this SSH is basically your port number 22. So you need to allow your 2222 port permanent -add -port. Fine. That is 2222/TCP. Fine. And then we need to go with firewall -cmd -reload. So if you'll see here, so now my 2222 port is in the allow list. So this is also we need to add in our nodes list. So that you can do before and after. That's totally your call. And after this, you need to make sure that you reload your firewall. And after this, you can check your firewall with firewall -cmd -list -all. Perfect. Fine. So now we are good to go with this port. So let's see how it works on. Now, how to access this on client. So if you go with this now, root is allow and student is allow. So it says connection refuse. If you get this message, because now my application is not running on this port. So this is again a troubleshooting for you guys. Please remember, if connection refuse message comes, that means either your SSH is not running, fine. And if you see with netstat command, it is not running on port number 22, but your SSH is running. So what guys actually do, they actually check systemctl status and SSHD, and it shows SSHD is running. But either see here, it shows 2222. So daemon is running, but that daemon is not running on the right port. It is actually on customized port, right? So go with UNLP and grep and check SSH. it shows you the right port. So that means your connection is refused now on this because your daemon is not running on this particular port. So what you need to do now, we need to go with -p and 2222. Fine. So now it goes for the password and we are good now. So what you need to do, you need to mention SSH-p and the port number. This one. So you need to give SSH-p and then the port number to SSH. So on SSH client, we need to run -p option. -p basically is for port number. So if you are running your non-default SSH, non-default port number SSH, then you need to give -p as an option. So this is how it works for you. So hope guys you actually enjoy this session, fine, and do more and more practice, and let's come up with more comments on this. If you have any confusion, please write down the comment so that I'll help you in understanding more. Fine. See you with next video. Enjoy learning. Jai Shri Ram. Thank you.